Welcome back to Prepare to Read, where myself, Marcos, and my good friend Jacob guide each other on our first read-throughs of our favorite book series. Currently, we are reading through Brandon Sanderson's Way of Kings, where Jacob is a first-time reader, and this week we are diving deep into the Interludes for Part 2. How are you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing pretty good, sir. I wanted to start off this podcast with just some LaCroix, sparkling water, cheap stuff. But I'm doing good. How about you, sir?
I'm doing good too. Yeah, excited to finally be done with Part 2. We, I think, stayed completely on schedule, one video a week, finishing out Part 2. So hoping we can keep that momentum going for the rest of the book.
How about a little round of applause for us being consistent through Part 2? Well done. Well done, us.
And also, thanks to all the new subscribers. Right now, I think at the time we're recording this, we're at like 56. So let's see if we can get that to 75. That's our next big goal. But if you are subscribed, comment, like anything, we've really appreciated it.
Yeah, if you're listening right now on YouTube, please comment down below what your favorite book in the series is. And we'll comment on it.
And another question, because Jacob has a really big problem with the names that Brandon Sanderson comes up with.
Oh, yeah.
Comment what you think is the worst name for a character in Way of Kings.
If it's not Szeth Sanson, I'm going to be disappointed.
It's not even that bad.
That is bad.
Are you ready to jump in?
I am, sir. I am.
Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and start with Interlude 4. This is the first of the interludes in Part 2. And we are getting the point of view of Risen. And the setting is Shinovar. So this is where our boy Szeth is from. And Risen is uncomfortable with the terrain of the Shin, where she is traveling with her master, Vistum, who is a trader. And she finds that it's a very different place than the rest of Roshar where they've traveled. There's a lack of Spren, there's soil, there's an abundance of green, grass, trees. And all this is just really, really weird to her because she's so used to this rocky, soilless, high storm-ridden area of Roshar. But Vistum, he's a seasoned trader. He's been around, and he's like, look, that's just how it is. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So there...
He knows a thing or two because he's seen a thing or two.
Exactly. But he reassures her and has her set up a warning fabrial, which is a invention which gives a warning if people are approaching. So a little sneaky, trying to hide something. Then a Shin party arrives, and this is where Vistum explains some of the nature of the Shin. So this is us kind of learning a bit about Szeth without really seeing him right here. But basically, warriors are seen as the lowest, caste of their society, whereas farmers are seen as the highest. And one of the comparisons they give is like those who create are seen as much greater than those that destroy. And during the bartering, it's also very cultured in that Vistum kind of tells Risen, like, you have to play things off as being worthless and lacking value. And that's kind of like the best way to get Shin to give you the best value. Because if you play it up, they don't really like that. So just kind of some nuance to bartering, specifically with the Shin. And during this time, right at the end of the bartering, Vistum basically says, like, hey, do you have any more of those slaves? And he's kind of talking about Szeth. And saying that he was the best servant he's ever had. He was, he regrets getting rid of him. And the Shin kind of are like, nah, man, we don't deal with those. Those were not good. We won't have another one of those. So kind of adding another layer to Szeth of like, what did this guy do? That everybody's like, nah, man, that guy was dirt. Like, if you gave me money, I had to throw that money away. That is how
literally what he said, no?
Was.
Like they got rid of what they gave him.
That's like how soiled they were by even just dealing with him. So interesting. We kind of learned a bit more about the Shin culture, learned a bit about Szeth without even getting any of Szeth, and also a little bit about the world building that goes on in a different place than what we're used to on the Shattered Plains.
I have a hard time visualizing the Shin, because something he always, like, they're bald and they say like they look like a baby pretty much, or like, right? Like bald baby and big eyes. But
that's what I picture.
What comes into my mind is the Albunaric people from Elden Ring. You know which ones I'm talking about? The little gray guys, the little bald gray guys that walk around. Yeah, it's just like that's what I picture in my head, but like not purple color. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, I think it was interesting to hear about them, but the part that really caught me off guard was the grass, where like we spend a good amount of time. I don't know if you remember, where she's like talking about how the grass doesn't move when she steps on it, which I thought was really weird.
Yeah, that the plants don't retreat.
Oh, like how they do in Russia. Yeah, okay. That clear, because I was like, what does he mean by that? But then I know like when they cross like the rock bud stuff, I guess they like slither away and right. Okay. That makes a lot more sense now. I just could not, like, I was like, what? What is she saying?
Well, one interesting thing I find is that, so they say that warriors are seen as the lowest of the low, the lowest class of this society. But Szeth, he has a shard blade. So that's kind of a weird thing. Like, why would Szeth have a shard blade that is like a weapon of war, basically? And he's also like, is he lower than the low? Like, the better of a warrior you are, the worse you're seen as. And that kind of leads to a question that I'll ask you, is we always hear our boy Szeth is truthless. So what do you think that means? Now that you know a little bit more, and we're going to get into him a bit more in another interlude, but what do you think now about Szeth's position and what he's doing?
I mean, I don't know what truthless means. And I think I'm a little bothered by it. Because he keeps talking about it, and I'm like, okay, like, you're gonna have to tell me something at one point, right? Like, truthless. And again, it's like, maybe you could say a complaint I have of the book is some of the things are kept so close to the chest that I'm like, okay, when I find this out, is it gonna be like, holy crap, you know, like, whoa, that was mind blowing.
Is it worth the wait?
Yeah, because if it's just gonna be like, oh yeah, like he trained at some temple, and it's gonna be like, all right. Okay, you could have told me that, book one, you know, like...
But we're figuring it out with the characters.
I don't think truthless comes as a part of being Shin. I think truthless comes from wherever he learned how to... What did he call himself? We can talk about it more in the third chapter of this section, but Soul Binder, I think is what he called himself.
That's Surge Binder.
Surge Binder, yeah. So, like, I think wherever he learned that is where he got the title of Truthless. I don't think it was necessarily from the Shin culture. That's my guess right now. So, yeah. I don't know. We can say more Szeth talk for later. Because I do want to talk about this chapter and what I liked about it. And it was, I think a lot of times in fantasy books, There's a couple of moments where I always feel like I haven't played D&D much, but I'm like, oh man, this feels like D&D. Like you're setting up camp, you're gonna put some people on guard. I think Wheel of Time did that a lot, and then this one, yeah, like I just really enjoyed the process of, hey, we're with a merchant or with a caravan. Let's put out the Fabrial, and then someone like it got triggered, trap warning, and they all draw up their bows. I don't know, it's just like a good classic fantasy trope that I enjoyed.
Mm-hmm. One specific aspect of this area that they're in that stood out to me, and I want to ask you what your thoughts on it are, is she finds that there is a lack of Spren.
Yeah. I don't know because I've been fascinated by Spren this entire time. Like I chalked them up to phenomena, and then like we learn a little bit more about Spren next chapter too. I don't know if like my first guess would be like, hey, they're further away from the origin, so like maybe that's why, you know, maybe they're tied to the storms and all that stuff. But yeah, that's the only guess. I didn't put too much thought into that. That's all I got there. But it is interesting. I think it is interesting that we get that here, and then we go to the next chapter, and we get a guy who's studying Spren.
A Spren researcher.
Yeah, yep. Spren guy. Big Spren guy. Hold on. How did you say you pronounced her name? Because you listened to the
Risen?
audiobooks. Risen?
I think it's Risen.
Okay, interesting. But yeah, like this chapter was good. Okay, it's an interlude. I don't know how I feel about the interludes. Like,
What do you think he's doing with them? Like, what do you think is the purpose behind it? Having the interludes.
I think it's just to keep you connected into key things that are going on. Like, I don't think it's a secret that, like, what Szeth is up to, you know? Obviously, that's, like, we find out what we find out in the third one, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, this is gonna, like, you start seeing this is how it's gonna tie in eventually, you know what I mean? As if it didn't already. And then and then other things is, like, the Ja Kaved with Shallan's brother. You know, something's going on there. Yeah, I just think it's just like keeping you connected with the world that's going on. Like, the way I imagine it is like if there was a newspaper of Roshar, like, this is what I'm getting, like the most important events that are happening here. Or maybe it's his way of subtly introducing characters that may become point of view characters later on, which I hope so. Because actually, as a whole, I'm like, we read Szeth's chapter, which I will admit I was not the biggest fan of him before in the first chapter, but I think it was more of I didn't like the prologue that much. But then we get a chapter of him this interlude cycle, and then a chapter of Axes is what I'm calling him.
Axes,
and these characters are cool, man. Like, I think really cool. So I'm like, I want to get to them. Like, get me these guys, man. I want to follow this guy getting drunk and trying to find Spren and waking up, and he has like weird powers where he can control how his mind feels and stuff like that. Like, man, like, get me here. And not that I dislike Dalinar and Kaladin, but like I've said, Kaladin feels very
vanilla right now.
Yeah, pretty like, you know, the hero like that we've seen, you know, in other stuff. Dalinar's a little bit more interesting, but then these guys, it's like, oh man, like they're so much more ingrained into the world where it's like, okay, this guy's immediately doing some sort of magic. He's studying the phenomena that I know nothing about. So like by following him, I'm learning more about them. And then he's like I don't know, he's just interesting. He's kind of funny too. Also, yeah, whatever. We can transition into that chapter if you want.
Yeah, sure. I think it connects really well. So Interlude 5 is with Axes the Collector, and the setting is Cassitor. So Axes is awakened in an alley by a ragged bum who's trying to charge him for rent for staying in his alley. And he's naked, he's sore, he has a headache, not a good place. It seems pretty much just like a straight up bum. And they describe this guy as being Amian. He has blue toenails, fingernails, and really deep blue eyes. And the ragged bum, I guess a little funny moment, he constructed a small city from like trash and filth, and he tells Axes like, you destroyed my city. Like, you crushed my stuff. I don't know, just crackhead moment, I guess. And
no, I love the part. I love the part where he's like, you crushed their home. And he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And he's like, that's okay. They weren't there. And he's like, oh. And he's like, they were at the temple. He's like, which you also crushed. It's like, oh.
See, like, Brandon has some jokes in there, see?
That was funny. That was a good moment. I liked that. I liked this chapter a lot.
Yeah. So from there, the bum also reveals to Axes that he's in the city of Cassitor, which is in northwestern Erie, and it's second in size only to Ral Ilorum for the country. So I haven't been looking at a map, but maybe you did to kind of see where all of this stuff is geographically.
I didn't, actually. I'm sorry. I did not look. I usually do.
Just be better.
I will. I'm sorry.
And then
I'm sorry.
From there, Axes... This part's the part where, because at first you're like, all right, this guy's just a drunk, whatever. But then Axes kind of reveals on this part, like, he was getting drunk on purpose because he was trying to investigate this drunk, like, intoxication, Spren, or he's even trying to figure out what to name it. But this is where we find out he is a Spren researcher, and he's trying to understand them.
I'm going to stop you right here because I did want to talk about this. A few heartbeats of mental focus finally banished the headache. He opened his eyes, and this time found the sunlight quite pleasant. He can he focused on his nose, sculpting his body so that he could no longer smell. Ah, he thought, much better. So this guy, all right, so what do you think this reminded me of, Marcos? I'm going to give you a guess.
What's the guess? Oh, you're giving me a guess. I thought you were giving me a clue.
No.
That he's like a shapeshifter? The scrolls? That's what came to mind.
No. He has like total control over his body. And like it reminded me of the Bene Gesserit from Dune. Where like they can control their metabolism. She could control what like gender of kid she had. And yeah, this guy's just like, I hate the smell. I don't smell it anymore. Or I have this headache. All right, cool. Like, I'm not going to have this headache. And then he can even, which I don't know if you've seen Memento, Marcos, but he does the Memento thing where he forgets things, or he's like, oh, I get my notebook stolen all the time. And he's like, so I write my notes on my body so they're there. Yeah. Like that. I mean, that's the type of stuff that's like out there, but I was like, I need more of this. Like, give me more of this guy. I love this guy.
Yeah, so they say he can change the shapes and colors of markings on his skin, and also he casts a shadow towards the sun.
Yeah.
Also, the Amian people, their homeland was scoured.
Yeah.
So that was another kind of interesting thing.
But they're not like demons. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's some like, oh shoot, man, like. Like he's scary. Like, yeah, they get creeped out by him, but like it seems like maybe 15 years ago they didn't. You know, like they were rare.
Creeped out quite a bit because they bring him before the magistrates of that town or city, and they tell him like because of his race, like this is why you're here. You have the curse of kind, which is something that his people carry, and all of that stuff is why he pretty much says like, I just don't worry. I just accept things as they are because it's kind of just my people get it this way. This is the way we're treated.
Yeah, but then when they get the curse of kind again is another capitalized thing, you know? Another little like the thrill, or like Szeth has the lash. Lash is capitalized in his things. So like what are these racial traits or abilities? Like the more we read, the more like Brandon's just like, oh, here's one, have another, there you go, boom.
Yeah, because we got the Amians, we got the Shin, we got the Horn Eaters, we got the Alethi, we got the Marshendi.
The Horn Eaters can see he could see Kaladin, Syl, right? Yeah, Syl. Yeah. And like, I don't know. It's just, there's a lot, you know? Like, I'll give kudos to him because I feel like a lot of fantasy I've read personally is pretty typical fantasy where if there is a thing, it's like, oh, you got the undead or you got, an orc or whatever. And this is like, he's really created a whole new, like, template, I guess you could say, where he's just completely off the wall, like, not familiar at all with this stuff. So I'm enjoying Axis a lot, and I want to hear more of it. That's where like sometimes I'm kind of like, man, we're getting drip fed this stuff that personally I think is like that's grabbing me right now. So
yeah. Well, we also found out a little bit more about his Spren research. Pretty much that he saw that this intoxication or ale Spren only came around when drunk, and they don't always appear. And he points out that Spren can be kind of elusive, like more common Spren, like Flame Spren. They don't always appear when expected. And I guess that's something he's kind of trying to understand is like, why are there Spren sometimes but not always?
Yeah.
So just more Spren info.
Yeah, like I think eventually, right, in Stormlight Archives, it's all going to come down to the Spren. Mm-hmm. I really think so. They're like the
key.
Yeah, like I don't know. I don't know what they are. The souls of people who have gone away or something. That it's if we were to interview Brandon, you know, like we're going to next month, guys. Stay tuned. That's what I would ask him. I was like, can you explain what gets Spren and what doesn't? Because like at first I was like, okay, cool, it's emotion. You know, like emotion's so strong that like they come out. Because I think the first ones we see are like fear and anticipation. And then it's like, oh yeah, and then you get wind. And it's like, oh, well, that's an element. I like one of the, whatever, like earth, wind, fire stuff, you know? And then you get like intoxication Spren, and it's like, well, what is that? Like, is there a rhyme or reason to this?
That kind of leads into this last part with Kuzikesh, who is like, it's called Kuzikesh the Protector. And it's pretty much like this giant water Spren. That's like, it's 100 feet tall.
It's a Gyarados.
It has 4 arms. It has this golden pedestal that it goes to every day. And the people worship it. And one of the interesting things about it is that most people have reported that whenever they interact or see Kuzikesh, they end up feeling tired after. So, yeah, Kuzikesh is kind of like, or not Kuzikesh, Axis is kind of wondering, like, what's going on here?
Yeah, and then another thing in his description is that it faces east towards the origin. And then that its face, right, it has a face, shifts between like different people the entire time that it's there. That's terrifying. Like,
it's definitely one of the weirder Spren we've seen anything on.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, you don't have, like, again, what is, like, you have...
It's a kaiju? Is that what they call them?
Basically. No, you know what it reminded me of? It was like a Pokemon. Like, it literally reminded me of like a Pokemon, and it's like, oh, you got to catch this rare Pokemon from these hours to these hours. But yeah, it's just like...
Syl can take on Kuzikesh.
I don't think so. But, you know, what... No, she would, because she's a grass type, technically. Wait, no, I guess wind.
No,
I don't
she's
know.
a wind type.
I can't remember. Is wind effective against water? I don't know. That's where it gets hard.
Oh, never mind, kids. Never mind.
Yeah, don't say
never
it.
Mind,
don't
never
say
mind,
it.
if you know.
You actually remembered something.
I did, yeah. The one time I remember, I'm going to ruin it.
Yeah, you
everyone.
are. You're going to be like, oh yeah, Kaladin died.
Oh, sorry, I remembered something.
Yeah. No, but yeah, like it changes faces and then it just stares towards the east. And then I'm like, okay, you can call like a fire sprint, whatever. Like, what is that thing? Like, it's so weird, man. Like, he had to be zooted, man, when he wrote some of this stuff. Like, that was pretty wild. It also reminded me of the Avatar face shifter person. Mm-hmm. Not as malicious, but still, like the shifting faces, and it was like he said human faces. And I'm like, that's terrifying, man.
And they're like disturbed faces too, no?
No, I don't think so, or at least not that I picked up on. But yeah, either way, Brandon, I want to ask you a question, but I don't want to ask you the question. I'm gonna ask you this: how much more about Spren do you know than me?
I would imagine a lot. I mean, he's the one writing this, Brandon.
No, you.
Oh, I was like, that's kind of redundant. But how much more do I know about Spren? I don't even know how to answer that question. Not because I don't remember, but because you'll see. You'll see. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll see. That I don't want to ruin it or point you in any direction, so I'd rather you just...
You can
find out when you find out.
Stray me along the wrong path. I would appreciate that if you can.
Oh.
You can. Okay. Well, now you can't do it because now I'll know that you're lying, so then I'll just think opposite.
But even if I don't remember anything, so it's not like I can. I'll be stringing myself along and be like, oh, shoot, I didn't know that's how it played out. I thought it played out this way.
Damn. I actually thought that. No, I mean, like, I love this chapter. I think it's great.
So you really like Spren stuff? You're a big Spren guy.
I do, but then I really liked Axis, man. Like, there was just something about him that, just the type of character I liked. Like, he had, I don't know, it was just different. different guy. I don't know. I enjoyed reading about him. His little notes are really cool. Like, even just picturing him walking down the street in a towel looks completely weird. And yeah, he's just
all
like
tatted up.
Yeah, he's like, all right, man, this is how it is. Like, I'm just gonna go to this dock and watch this weird thing come out of the water.
Yeah, maybe that's what all the homeless in my hometown are doing.
Whoa, hey.
They're just researching Spren.
Maybe you can't see him.
Yeah, I can't see him. Anyway, so I don't really have too much more to say on that. I mean, the interludes are just kind of little bite-sized little stories. So
he does say he's gonna look for captivity Spren.
Oh yeah, he does bring that because they're taking him out of jail.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they just see him as like a crackhead. They're like, this guy's just cracked out, man. But
yeah, so it's just, I don't know. We do learn a lot about Spren in this chapter, and it's interesting. I would hope that these people become point of view characters. Yeah, that's what I would hope. That's
all right. Well, coming back to our boy Szeth, he's currently working for Makik, however you want to say it, who's using his skills to kind of work through the criminal underworld in Babylon. He's trying to use them to take down a rival named Gavashaw. And to do this, Szeth is using a surge binding, he's using a shard blade, and we get a bit more context to how Szeth feels about this. At one part, he ends up encountering, is it Gavashaw? No, it's...
Oh, we don't know who he encounters. Don't you dare say a word.
Yeah, the guy killed Gavashaw. So he ends up encountering this guy, and this guy starts to point out things about him. And Szeth even tells him, like, don't talk about my dad. Like, don't soil my dad with my name. So, again, just like whatever this guy did, they see this guy as, like, the worst of the worst. But Szeth's kind of worst fear comes true in that, like, Szeth, he follows whoever has the O Stone. If it's just a farmer and that guy just tell him go and just hold the field, he has no problem doing that. But his worst fear is that, like, somebody who knows just how much he can actually do has his oath stone and wants to use it for bad intentions. And that's pretty much how the chapter ends, is he has a new master, and his master gives him this list and is like, I need you to kill these people. And Szeth's just like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to cause some problems. And that's kind of all we got left with, really.
Yeah, but like, okay, so this is where I'm going to tell you that I feel like I know Szeth. Well, let's start over, okay? It was funny. I really appreciated how this guy, Makek, like, didn't fully understand what Szeth was capable of, and he basically had him, like, dressed like Batman. like at one point he's like hanging on a ledge with like his cape hanging down, and I'm just like, dude, this guy's Batman right now, just hanging out, and he's just in the gambling den with everybody, and it's just like a little creep in the corner. I don't know, that part cracked me up, and then he walks through and everybody's like, oh shit, never mind, quiet down. And then again, but he was already used for something horrible. He killed a king that led to a 6-year war. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, cat's out of the bag, man. You've been used. And then, like, I guess I've come to appreciate Szeth, right? But then also I'm like, are you really just like, oh no, I guess I gotta do it, you know? Like, I need to know why.
Like, why does this O Stone have so much hold over him?
I guess because I'm starting to feel like, okay, if he feels so strongly about hating to do this, like, in a way, I feel like, I'm like, okay, like, well, why does he need to? Like, I get he's truthless, you know, but like, to me, that means nothing. Like, I need to start having a little bit more answers as far as like, oh yeah, like, even if it was just like, well, if he breaks his oath, he's dead. But then it's like, oh, well, he can't die unless he gets killed in combat or whatever it is. So I'm just like, I'm struggling as to like, okay, why does he need to completely follow this, whatever his orders are with his O Stone? And also, of course,
do you think he's always had an O Stone, or do you think the O Stone is a part of the truthless part? I don't remember, honestly.
I think the truthless thing is that he can't just kill himself. You know what I mean? Which is what he kind of says like he wants to do. And I think the O Stone comes from the Shin culture, I feel like. I mean, they sound like they're slave traders. I don't know. He sold him. That was pretty wild. So I don't know. But then he also says, like, okay, cool, because I have an O Stone, like, maybe... what did he say? He said something kind of crazy. He talked about, like, his soul will be, like, in there and not being punished, is what it sounded like. Oh, Marcus, you might have to cut this out while I search for this, because now I want to know.
So, from what you're saying is the O Stone kind of purifies him in a way?
Nah.
Like, hey, since I'm following what my master's asking, it doesn't stain me.
No, I think he knows that he's doing bad, but I don't know. I gotta find what he said. But I do feel like he is using it as like I'm just doing what I'm told, and he tries to justify it, like with the Gavashaw guy, where he's like, well, at least like this guy deserves what's coming to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hold on, Marcos. I gotta find this.
Yeah, with a lot of these characters, it's like Brandon just used a D&D character generator. And with Szeth, he got lawful. And he was like, all right, well, he has to follow his law, and there's no breaking it.
Yeah, like, whose paper did he sign, you know? Hold on, Marcos. I'm going to find this. It's important. And then, of course, this is like the longest chapter. He also, but like, he is like, he doesn't just kill to kill, which we know. Like, he tries to find a way to not kill anybody that doesn't need to be killed. Or that he's not commanded to kill, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I guess is a good thing, but I mean...
Now, he definitely has a very hard code that he follows.
Hold on. Just the last page. Oh well, I can't find it. Either way, he did say something there. Maybe I'll find it eventually, but whatever. I want to talk about who was in that room. And who
is in the what room?
The room where he's like, hey, here are your list of people that you need to kill. Go do it, and then we'll talk again.
So who is his new master?
Yeah. Who is his new master's? Who is his new master's master? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because he says...
we're in Bavland. Do we know anybody that's in Bavland right now?
Oh, big dog. I think this goes bigger than that. Mm-hmm. Personally. I think someone's pulling some strings and is like, look, this needs to happen for this to happen. And I think Szeth is going to be on the... inadvertently be on the bad side of whatever the big chess match is that's going on.
Because it would need to be somebody who's well connected, who knows who are the chess pieces that need to be taken out.
Exactly. And I don't think necessarily that the guy that picked up the O Stone knows, but the guy that guy works for definitely knows. And the only bad name that I feel like has been like, oh, this guy's a big bad guy, is that race guy from the writing notes.
Yeah.
That's all I could think of. I'm like, hey, that guy's probably doing something. Like, he's like, hey, go get Von and have him kill some people and make him go gone.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, like, I mean, that's it. Like, I was reading this and I was just like, oh boy, like, he better be a POV character soon, because I want to see this hit list, man. I want to see it. And then, of course, like, right, one of the things he points out in this list is like, 6 high princes. Well, you know where the high princes are. That's right.
So we are seeing things kind of come together now.
Yeah, so now you see Szeth's trajectory of starting to like, hey, he was going off on this side, and he's going to go back the other way.
I want to bring up something I can't.
No, you can't. Don't do it.
Hopefully when it happens, we'll appreciate it together. I do like the name of this chapter, though. A work of art.
Why?
I don't know. It just sounds cool that like they see what Szeth does as art, because he says like he's good at what he does. If you get a hit on you and it's Szeth, you're dying.
Yeah, I mean the king couldn't even beat him.
Yeah,
which is pretty crazy.
King, this little baby comes after you and that's it.
little feetsies running at you. Okay, we didn't talk about this last time, but I was driving home and I was like, oh shit, I didn't talk about this. So, speaking of Szeth and the letters and race, in the letter, we hear about someone saying he possesses the most, I don't know, like evil of shard blades or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I have this thing here somewhere. So, like, I just completely scanned over that, but like, oh shit, like shard blades have vibes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I think that's a big thing, you know? It's very, like that's crazy. So I'm thinking, okay, when he's saying, hey, so-and-so possesses like the most, one of the corrupt shard blades, like, is that Szeth? Is that why, like, he's been put on a path of doing so much destruction because of the shard blade he has? And
he also can't give it up, right? Isn't that one of the only things he can't do?
That's part of being Shin, is what he said. Like, if someone kills him, they will come and get the shard blade. Which is wild. Like, there's little collectors. So that means, like, what? They probably send, like, 5... Szeth after you or something, you know, like Jesus, can you imagine? But yeah, like, yeah.
So do you think this surge binding is inherent to the rest of the Shin?
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe it is done through them, but not all of them have it, you know? Like, I guess we've heard most Alethi warriors talk about the thrill, and it sounds like the Amani people have those abilities. So maybe they do have the ability to surge bind. And I guess we see Alethi women having the power to soul cast. So maybe it is all Shin can surge bind. But I feel like people would know that then, right? Because like they know about the Shin a little bit, unless it's like a secret. Like, because he talks about like, oh man, these people, like, they're so weird about like their safe hands and stuff like that. But like here they have like this stormlight and they use it as a lamp, you know? Like he's like idiots. So maybe it is like a secret with these truthless people. I don't know. It's interesting. I am, again, like last chapter, I'm like, give me, like, don't leave this. Like, don't leave this area, man. Like, I want to keep reading about this. So now I will say, these 2 chapters, probably my favorite 2 chapters of the book so far. I'm going to put that out there.
Wow.
Like, they did something for me where I don't know. If we weren't doing this podcast, like, I would have blown through the rest of, like, part 3 probably in this week, you know?
Well, I do think this is kind of at least where we left off with all of our characters. It does feel like, all right, the pieces are in. Things are where they need to be now for things to really kick off.
I still don't think so, because I feel like Dalinar is still in this, like, will he, won't he type of thing, you know? Like, I feel like Dalinar hasn't made that decision, or something hasn't happened to him that's just like, oh, there you go. Like, you're on this train track now, and it's moving, you know?
And we're not going to get him for a while.
Yeah, but he's not even in part 3. And then Kaladin, I feel like, is like, okay, cool. Like, I see his trajectory, and I see the path he's going on right now, at least like the immediate future. And his story feels like he has momentum, whereas Dalinar is still like in what I would call like an exposition, is what it sounds like. So yeah, and like I said, I'm not trying to do a review of the book here, but like the two things, like drip feeding me information, I don't love. Like, I think of Name of the Wind, and like you get drip fed a little bit of information there, but like it's stuff where you're like, oh, I guess it's just not that important, you know? Like, oh, he's from this land and they do that, and it's like, oh, cool, like that's all I'm gonna get. But it's not like he's teasing you with it, like, oh, he's truthless, you know? Like, like, nope, not yet. And I feel like that's what's happening to me with some of this stuff, and it's a little bit of a complaint for me. And then also too is like, I'm telling you, I need that pin to drop where it's just like, oh,
you just gotta read fast.
Shit.
And all your prawns will be solved.
No. It's still the same amount of pages. So yeah, like I'm ready for stuff to hit the fan here. I feel like I need it to hit the fan soon, you know? So I'm excited. I enjoyed this interlude a lot. I think like way better than the first section of Interludes. So yeah, man, that's all I gotta say about him. Pretty short.
Cool. Well, in our next episode, we'll be kicking off part 3. And I think these chapters are getting a bit shorter, so we'll probably start working through these a bit quicker. And yeah, so I'll see you guys on the next episode.
Part 3 is called Dying. So who do you think?
And it's Shallan and Kaladin, right?
Yeah. Who do we think's gonna die?
I don't know. That's a question for you.
I don't think Kaladin can die. So maybe he'll have like a Jon Snow moment where they're like, oh man, like, you should have died. And it's like, no, he's the chosen one. You know?
Yeah.
Or with what we just saw, right? With Szeth is like, other people are going to start dying. Like the High Princes or something like that. There's how many High Princes? There's got to be 10, right? Just like this is how it goes here.
I think there is 10. Yeah.
So the 6. Who do you think the 6 are? Oh, yeah. I can't name them all.
I can't either. We got...
Look it up. Give me the 10 High Princes. Look
Dalinar.
It up.
I don't even think we've met all of them.
No, but we got Sadeas, Dalinar. That's what we got. Does Elhokar count as a High Prince, or does he just count as the king?
It's... No. The High Prince is the highest title of nobility. So there are different positions. It's like the High Prince of Commerce, the High Prince of Information, High Prince of War, High Prince of Works.
Yeah, but like the Alethi don't. Is it only for Alethkar culture?
Here are the 10 Alethi High Princes. It's Aladar, Bethab, Hatham, Adolin,
Whoa. The spoilers.
Relis, Turinad, Thanadel, Loradar.
You're crushing it.
Sadeas.
Well, I'm gonna say Adolin is gonna get yeeted, maybe. Sadeas, maybe. I don't know. I think Dalinar is gonna make it. I think Big Boy Dalinar is gonna make it. That's what I think. But yeah, I hope that starts happening. Actually, if this is gonna be like this comes around in book 4, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of things that are gonna take time, but
yeah. Like I'm telling you, man, I need something to get me. I need like, you know, one of those, like, you watch a movie and then like everybody's just talking and boom, someone gets sniped and then just like all gunfire breaks out or something like that. Like I need this in this part. So we'll see. Not that I'm not enjoying the book. I'm just saying, I think for it to be like a, like
up a notch.
Yeah, like To be a goat, I need it.
Yeah.
All right, sir.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. If you're still listening.